It's day I can't even remember of quarantine, so it's time to get back to work on the Civic. Today I'm going to work on something I've been putting off for months, and I've been putting it off honestly because it intimidates me. So I need to get to work on the motor mounts. The motor mounts that are in there right now are they're crap. We'll just say that. They're in really bad condition. So I was able to source a used pair of Hasport. So I'm going to put those in today. The one thing that I'm nervous about with the Hasport, I'm not sure what generation I have. They came out of an EG hatch. There was a guy that was parting out his car, but I'm not sure if they're the first or second generation of the mounts. And that's important. Well, I'll show you. I'll show you the mounts, and we'll talk through all the things that could go wrong. All right, here we go. I picked these mounts up on Facebook, which again, I know I have a Facebook Marketplace problem, but what can you do? Anyway, the guy had these in his hatch for a couple of months, he said, and then his motor blew up, and so he parted out the car. But I got these for a really good price. I'm really excited about it. There's still a lot of life left in these mounts, so that's nice. The one thing that makes me a little nervous about these mounts is I'm not sure what the generation is. So it's really more important on the driver's side mount. So the driver's side mount, here, I'll show you. Come this way. So on the driver's side mount, you have these two bolts, right? They look like vampire fangs. But some of these are tapered at the end, so it's not just like a straight bolt. It tapers out at the end. And the early generation mounts, from what I understand from Hasport, accommodated for that. They had a large enough hole that you could countersink and get the mount all the way down. The later generation mounts have you actually remove these studs, and they provide you with new hardware that mounts from the top. So you don't have these studs connected to the engine block anymore. You install the mount, and then you put in two bolts essentially through the mount. I'm not sure what mounts I have. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I'm hoping that I have the ones that will fit over these tapered studs. If I don't, then I need to go source some Hasport mounting hardware. And I haven't done that yet. So I'm really hoping that I have the early generation mounts where they'll just fit on top of these two studs. But there's only one way to find out, so we're going to do that. Before I get these in the car, I am going to clean them up a little bit. They've just been sitting in my garage for a couple of months now. Okay, more than a couple, more like a couple few months. So I'm going to clean these up, get them looking shiny and nice, and then we're going to experiment with the driver's side mount. I'm going to get the old one off, and we're going to look at those studs and see if they will actually fit through this mount. If not, I'm just going to move on to the passenger side mount. That one should fit no problem, doesn't matter the generation. And if I'm feeling really brave, we'll move on to the rear mount. But the rear mount, honestly, that one is the one that is keeping me up at nights. It's from what I've heard and what I can see, it's just going to be really difficult to access. There's a lot of things that are in the way of this rear mount. So let's get these cleaned up, and then we'll start working on the driver's side mount and see where we are.
So as fun as it is to watch me clean parts that I bought from a stranger on Facebook, I put this sequence in here just so we could chat for a minute about project cars. Specifically, why do we do this to ourselves? Project cars, they're terrible, right? They never work. They're always more time than you're expecting. They're always more expensive than you're expecting. But for some reason, here we are on a perfectly good Saturday, spraying used parts with chemicals and loving every minute of it. So what is it about project cars that keeps us coming back? That's something I've been thinking about lately. Because, a project car, it can be frustrating. Things have a way of not going exactly according to plan with project cars. So there's a fine line between control and chaos, and you learn to balance that pretty quickly, or you go out of your mind. Hold that thought. We're going to get back to the bolt spinning action here.
Here goes nothing. There we go.
What were we talking about again? Oh yeah, frustration. So frustration, it's part of the satisfaction of owning a project car. You're always going to find bolts that won't spin, or hoses that won't fit, and hoods that won't open, but those are all solvable problems. And if the last few months have taught me anything, they've taught me the value of solvable problems.
I'm pretty sure these are the tapered studs. Which that stinks. Alright, we'll keep going.
Remember that fine line between control and chaos? Solvable problems help us feel like we have some control. I can't control the economy, or a virus, or my work, or my kid's school closing, but I can get a bolt to spin, and a hose to fit, and I can for damn sure get that hood to open. The feeling of control, even in small doses, can give us the courage to do hard things, and I find that incredibly valuable and comforting.
So I should mention, I soaked these bolts in PED Blaster for like a day and a half, so that was a big help.
Yeah, for real. PB Blaster, that came in clutch on this project.
I don't know why I do that. It's never just gonna come out with your fingers.
You know, at the end of the day, a car is a machine. It's one part working in sequence with another part. One thing before the other. That's how I solve problems as well. I solve one thing, then move to the next, and eventually, it works. That's car wisdom, but it looks suspiciously like life wisdom. How'd that get in here? Alright, I'm gonna shut up with all this existential stuff, and let's just get back to me replacing this motor mount.
Oh, I should mention as well, I have the engine supported with my jack underneath, so that's why it's not falling. Okay. Moment of truth. Nuts. Okay. Let me show you. If you see, like right here on the bottom, these studs kind of flare out, they taper. It's not all one circumference. So those fit in the stock mounts. That's how they get them to sit flush with the engine. But in the Hasport ones, I don't think I'm going to be able to get over that. So they'll just kind of float on top of that. Yeah, the flare, which you don't want that. You need it to be flush with the mount. Well, hold the phone, gang. This might actually work. I think I do have the earlier version of the Hasport. I think these holes are actually big enough to fit the tapered stud. So if you line up the holes, the circumference is the same. There we go. So I think the tapered stud is actually going to work. So let me go put these in the car and we'll see for sure. Okay, here comes the proof of concept. But I do think these tapers will fit in the, they should anyway, they're the same circumference, so let's find out. Okay. I mean, looks good so far. Yeah, let's try to get the mounting bolt through. Oh, my friends, I think we have a winner here. Okay. Now let's see if we can get these guys to go flush with the engine side. Oh, so far so good. My friends, I think we have a winner. Okay, let's double check, make sure it's all flush. Okay. Wow. Awesome. So this is riding flush. This is the motor mount, and this is the one attached to the block. And the motor mount is riding flush on top of the block mount, which is exactly what you want. That's awesome. So that means I have the right version of the Hasport. That's great news. All right, so that one is done. Let's move on over to the passenger side. So this is the passenger mount. There are 3 bolts that hold it into place. There's that one and this one, and then one right here. So that's on a stud, and this is on a stud, and this is just a bolt. And then of course there's this one that goes through. So we need to remove a few things to get access, namely just the air intake, and then move some of the electrical hoses out of the way. So we'll get that done. With the air intake out of the way, you have easy access to all the bolts necessary. So this should be pretty straightforward to pull that one out. I do have the jack supporting my transmission, so if we move that mount, the engine's not going to do crazy things like drop and fall and torque on things. It's supported by the jack, so everything should be good to go. One thing I failed to mention, you're going to want to disconnect your battery. I didn't do that, full disclosure, and so as soon as I put my ratchet down here on this bolt, it gave a little discharge. So yeah, disconnect the battery. Just make sure all your electrical stuff is in, out of the way. So, lesson learned. I have a suspicion that this mount is about to bite back. Not looking forward to that. I don't know why, but I just got that feeling. Go. Let's get the other mount in here. All right, so this mount just needs a little gentle persuasion to get it in. There we go. It gets hung up a little bit on this back lip, but it's in. So my third is in there. Make sure this bolt gets through. Okay. Get it through. Okay, that looks like it should go back together. Okay, so I've got it started. I've got the through bolt in, so I think just need to snug everything up now. It looks like it's sitting flush. Alright, last check here. Make sure this is all snug. Okay. All right, so passenger side is in. All 3 of the bolts went in no problem, which is that's really nice. This one went in without a problem either. So Everything seems to be sitting where it should be. There's no gaps. It's all flush. Yeah, that went very well. I'm very pleased with that. The last one is that guy back there. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna tackle that one today. That's gonna be a lot of work to get it in and out, but these guys are in, so that makes me very happy. So these are the old mounts out, and as you can see, like, they are long past their shelf life. This is the passenger side mount. It's broken all the way through. And then the driver's side mount, it's not as bad, but it's still like, it's starting. Here's a rip, and here's another tear. So these things were hanging on just by a thread. The rubber in here is all perished as well. Like, this is torn almost completely through. Like, there's nothing really holding that together, but just stubbornness and willpower. But yeah, these really needed to be changed, so good thing we had the Hasport. Well done. I have tried every way to Sunday to try to get this rear mount out, and I just cannot access the bolt. So I can get this one, and then there's one right through here as well, but the driver's side one, driver's side is right here, and I can't get a good grip on it. So there's a nice cavity, open space right here, and I can get my wrench on it, but I can't get enough torque to break the nut loose. And then I can't access it from up here. See, like all these brake lines, the bolt is like right beneath these brake lines. So I can't get an extension down through there. The only way I can access it is right through here. You can't see it, but that's, my finger is basically on it right there, this shiny thing. So I can get a wrench in here, but I just can't get enough torque on the wrench to actually break the nut loose. So I think I'm just gonna soak that thing in PB Blaster overnight, and I'm gonna try to break it tomorrow. Because yeah, I've been trying for the better part of an hour to get enough force on it, and I'm not making any progress. So the rear mount is going to have to wait, but I do have my driver's mount and my passenger's mount in, and those were the two that were in the worst condition. So if nothing else, at the very least, I've fixed the major problem with these two mounts. But we're gonna soak that thing overnight, and then I'm gonna come back tomorrow. I'm gonna see if I can get it to break loose. All right, that's where I'm gonna have to leave it tonight, guys. I'm not accepting defeat on this. I'm just calling it a momentary pause to victory. That's how I'm gonna phrase it to myself anyway. But you know, I've got 2 out of the 3 mounts installed, and that ain't half bad. So I feel pretty good about that, but we'll get this one all buttoned up hopefully tomorrow, and then yeah, we'll move on to the next thing on the list. So we're making progress. That makes me happy. So this is the satisfying part of working on the Civic. So I get to go down the checklist, done all of that. We'll get here, we'll get to that later. That, stay tuned, whatever. Here we go, engine mounts. Done. That feels good. That feels real good. Thanks for sticking around, guys. We're gonna keep making some progress on the Civic. I got some, the coilovers are coming up next. Yeah, it's gonna be good. We got a lot of good plans coming up. So hope everybody's staying safe, wash your hands, social distance whenever you can. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. See you guys.